Welcome to the Summit Own It. Finally step up and unapologetically own your worth, your value, and step into creating financial freedom. I'm your host, Linda Butler. If you are a woman in mid-career, midlife, and are tired of feeling stuck in the status quo, tired of feeling overworked or undervalued, and are ready to step out into the world in a bigger and better new way, we are here for you. We have a powerful lineup of speakers who will be sharing tips and strategies that leave you feeling inspired to start taking those steps, to show up fully, to confidently own and promote your value, and create your own path to financial freedom. And today I am happy to introduce our speaker, Lynn Toomey. Lynn is the founder of Her Retirement, a financial education planning and coaching company with a proprietary technology-based platform that helps women prepare for, transition into, and live a better retirement. Lynn has 30 years experience in launching high-tech and financial services companies. As a personal finance educator, financial wellness coach, writer, speaker, and fintech creator, Lynn is passionate about her mission to help women everywhere know more and have more now and in retirement. So welcome, Lynn.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you here. I was so excited to have the opportunity to talk to you today. This is one of those topics that's really of interest to me. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Yep, it's great. Looking forward to talking.
Awesome. So can you give us a little bit about your journey? What caused you to found your company, Her Retirement?
It probably started when I was about 8 years old. My mom was actually divorced, and she walked away from a very tough marriage, abusive. It was not an easy time. There was 4 of us. But she was a full-time teacher, and she finally decided after 13 years, 15 years, I think it was, enough's enough. And back then, women didn't do that. So luckily, she took us and brought us to a new home and a new life. And, I saw the bravery and courage that she had. Sorry if I get a little emotional talking about it.
Oh, sure.
She always said you can be the hero, you can be the hero of your own story. So one of my taglines is be the her and hero. So I learned from a very young age that being independent and getting an education, having a career, owning your destiny, being responsible for your own life, your own money, taking responsibility for your own decisions was kind of ingrained in my head. The other thing she said was you don't want to be a bag lady. So that's also been, always in the back of my mind, and quite honestly, worry, because, I learned it from a young age. I would watch my mom pay the bills and struggle. It wasn't easy, but luckily she did have a good career. She was a teacher, very, stable, stable career. We weren't rich by any stretch of the imagination, but we didn't go hungry either. We had a comfortable place to live. So I think that was an early kind of thing in the back of my head. And then I started a career in marketing. I wanted to be a teacher, but I was pretty motivated by money because of my upbringing. And I went into marketing, high technology marketing. And I remember my mother saying, geez, you're making more money your first year out of college than I'm making after 20 years of teaching or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
But, she had a different motivation. She had a different satisfaction level being a teacher that I missed out on in my high tech career. And then about 10 years ago, I got divorced. One of the biggest obstacles and challenges we women have is that we do sometimes end up divorced, which can be financially devastating. And for me, it was for different reasons than typical, which I won't get into in this interview. But oddly enough, while I was trying to just regroup emotionally and financially, a couple years after, I met someone who was, or still is, an investment advisor. And he wanted to start focusing on retirement, helping his clients retire because they were getting older. And he didn't have all the answers to the questions. So he said, why don't you do some marketing and work with me? And we rebranded his company and we started focusing on retirement planning. And I was more on the operations and marketing side. And then about 3 years ago, I think I lost track with COVID, but I think about 3 years ago, I was sitting here doing writing, and we co-hosted retirement planning courses locally here in Massachusetts. And I was like, well, what about her retirement? Like, I kept reading all this data about how women are at risk and we have extra challenges and we are not as confident in like investing and just financial literacy. We lag behind and so many things. And we tend to be more conservative, and a lot of the financial advice community isn't really designed for women. It was designed by men, for men. And so the more and more I did, the more I said, I need to do her retirement because, I had this strong independent mom and it was just part of my DNA. So I Googled her retirement and the URL was available. So I reserved it. Like a good marketer, I wanted to market it, but I really wasn't sure what it would be. Then I started working on a software program, a platform. I call it the Retirement Readiness Platform. So I created a software program over the course of 2 years. And it's just kind of snowballed from there into what I'm calling an education and readiness platform, where we focus on educating women first about the risks and opportunities that they have in retirement, because there's risks, but there's also great opportunity. So there's part of us that are fearful, but the bigger part of us should be excited, and we should put ourselves in a financial situation where we can embrace that excitement and look forward to a retirement, whenever that is less stressful financially. And then in addition to the education programs that I offer a lot of free programs. There's some paid programs. There's coaching, because women just don't even understand all of the things that they need to have on their to-do list for retirement. And before you talk to a financial advisor, or before you hand over your money, because I am not an investment advisor, I won't take your money and invest it. Before you do that, you need to put together a whole plan. You need to figure out what it is you want to do with those 2,000 hours of retirement. There's so many things that you need to consider in thought processes, and we walk women through that through conversations. So we're really talkers. We like to talk and listen and help you chart a course to preparing for those conversations. I also want to make sure that when a woman meets with an advisor, let's say an investment advisor, maybe it's an independent advisor, maybe it's someone at Fidelity, that they're not sold anything, that so many women just kind of don't know. So they just they either follow the person or they're offended by the person. In most cases, it's a man, and they get intimidated. They feel shame, and they walk away and do nothing. So I want to give women a safe place where they can learn from me, have some conversations, help them design their retirement, their lifestyle. Perhaps is a little more focus on, they're going through a divorce, or like two of my really good friends just lost their husbands suddenly. Like, what should you do before that happens? Be prepared for those circumstances, because typically we do outlive our partners if we're partnered up, our men partners, and we need to be prepared. So I just want to prepare women better through education and coaching. Long-winded, I know.
No, that was wonderful. And thank you so much for sharing your personal story. And I love how you took your own experiences to really create something that fills a need in the market, because I agree. You just don't see that much that's geared directly towards women. Yep. And what do you find are maybe the top financial challenges for women? What are you seeing?
Yeah, well, this is actually pretty well documented and talked about, but the pay gap, we still are paid less in many industries and many jobs. I experienced that firsthand in corporate America, where I had a similar job to men, and it wasn't until I got to the management level that it was uncovered to me. And it was so disheartening, because I actually had a master's degree. I had more education than some of my male counterparts, but I was a woman in high tech, and it it made me sick to my stomach, to be honest. But I know in, medical professions, maybe there's not as much of a pay gap, and I know the gap is closing. I think it's 70 cents or something to every dollar. And, it's not across the board, but that is a challenge, right? Because we don't make as much, we don't save as much. I think also women have breaks in their careers. So I actually took a break when I had twins. I decided to start a lifestyle business because I couldn't travel around the world any longer with 3 children at home and a set of twins. And I made a conscious decision. I decided to step out of corporate America and raise my girls and have a lifestyle business. And during those 10 years or so, I wasn't contributing to my retirement savings. So I say I did things in reverse. Now they're off to college and I'm going to focus on my career. But I made that conscious choice. And luckily, if you have your health and your energy and your passion, which I still have at my age. I'm how old am I? Gosh, 56, I think.
The number is irrelevant now, right?
But the numbers are irrelevant because
Yeah.
women retiring from their careers are actually starting businesses at, like, I don't know, twice the rate of other people in the country. So
Yeah.
even though we retire from one thing, we move on to something else. There's no reason to do the retirement of our grandparents, right? So yeah, it's just it's life is an interesting journey, and I want to make retirement even more interesting for people.
Good. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I feel like there's so much opportunity that comes at this age. I'm in my early 50s, and just I see the world differently.
Yeah.
And it can be scary, but it can also be exciting because you have that opportunity to do things differently.
Yeah,
So if you,
oh, sorry, I just wanted to add one other important note. I think that also women are fearful. We're fearful of what we don't know. And even though I grew up in a very open situation with my mother, talking about budget, talking about money, going with her to buy a car, like I was exposed to so many things, going to the bank. I exposed my own girls to that type of thing. I make them very responsible for their money. I still was uncomfortable, when I got to corporate America and I had my 401k. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, okay. My company went public. I came into a lot of money. I had no clue what to do. I went to see Goldman Sachs, clueless, and I felt bad about it, but I was busy. I was busy working. I was busy raising kids. And I don't think I felt shame, but I think a lot of women are just so busy. And I almost said, like, oh, investment stuff. I'm not a numbers girl. I'm a marketing. I'm a creative. I'm not a numbers person. But actually, I am. I do numbers now all the time as a small business owner. And I've learned so much in the last 10 years about financial concepts and retirement planning. You can don't be overwhelmed. So women get overwhelmed, and we either defer to our partners, sometimes to our husbands. It's traditionally women, just my mother never had her name on anything, just it's just crazy. So I think that one of the other challenges is that it's ourselves, right? We have to take responsibility that it's not just the world, it's not just pay gap, it's not just that we're primary caregivers often, but we have to take responsibility that sometimes we're in our own heads and we're our own worst enemies, saying, oh my goodness, all this financial stuff I get, and sometimes when you go to meet with an advisor, they want to keep you confused, right? Because they want to, it's all behind the scenes. It's not really that complicated. It does take commitment. So that's why I say, when you know more, you can have more, but you have to make that commitment. Just like going to the gym, just like eating right, it's all behavior. And so there is a behavioral component of it. So just because you say, yeah, I want this. Yeah, you can want to do a triathlon, but you have to put in the effort. I did one. I was told I couldn't do it, but I made the commitment and I did it. So it's a big part of it is women have to make a commitment to their financial wellness. And when they do, they will be better off. So when I work with people, I want to work with people that are committed. I don't like to work with people that are like, oh, this will never work. I can't do it. I'm overwhelmed. It's okay to start that way, but have an open mind and when you have an open mind, you can learn a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with that. So if there are people watching this that maybe are in the mid part of their life or their career, and they recognize that they're maybe not quite where they had hoped or maybe where they want to be at this moment, what would be some of those first steps that you would recommend that they take?
Yeah. So number one, you have to benchmark where you're at when you start any endeavor. I've been on a fitness journey for a while and it got interrupted by COVID, but you start with, what do you look like? What do you weigh? Take those pictures. If you're trying to understand in a business where you're at business wise, you do a profit and loss statement, you do a cash flow statement. So in this respect, you have to really understand where you're at. And in order to do that, you have to take a financial inventory. So I have my software platform basically allows women to gather all of their financial data and put it in one place and have one dashboard where they can see everything that they've got. And sometimes people don't want to look because they're afraid of how bad it's going to look, right? You go get, when you buy a home, you get a home inspection to see what's the condition of the home. So you have to take a read on your situation. And then you have to think about what it is that you want in the future. What you have to kind of do a projection. It depends on how far out from retirement you are, but let's say you're in your 40s or 50s and you're thinking 10, 20 years till retirement. You have to think, okay, well, do I want to live the same lifestyle in retirement? And you have to project out what those expenses and those retirement income sources are that you'll have in retirement, and the software helps you do that. So it's not something you have to be figuring out on a spreadsheet or on a piece of paper. Everything's calculated in my software, and I know there's other software programs also, but really, really important to take a read of what you have now, what you think you're going to need and have for resources, income resources in retirement, and see what the gap is. Mm-hmm. And then once you have that gap, you can say, okay, how are we going to fill the gap? There's only so many ways that you can fill the gap. You can work more, you can earn more, you can spend less. The basics of personal finance really come into play, and the discipline for the personal finance. I was living on a lake for almost 4 years. We were renting because we thought we were selling at the high point of the market. And so we rented to see if we liked it. But lake homes around here are $700,000 beginning, a decent home.
Yeah.
And I just said, you know what? That's no longer a priority for me. I don't want to spend $700,000 on a home. I want to spend $450,000 on a home. I just bought a home, and I want to have more of a lifestyle. I don't want to be house poor. I want to travel. I want to do these things. So you really need to sit down and have a money date with yourself, with your spouse, if you're partnered up, and say, what are our priorities now? Is it funding kids' education, or do we want them to take out loans? Do we want to put a new roof, or do we need to put a new roof on the house? You need to really understand your situation and then look down the road as best we can. We don't know what's going to happen 20 years from now, and sketch out what you think you're going to need in retirement and what your income sources are. And then so many women are just saving money. Perhaps they have money in a CD or bank account because they're afraid of the market, especially right now. We see the market go down, but historically over time, the market has consistently outperformed any other investment. Stock market, 9 to 10% has been the historic averages. So I encourage women, even though I'm not an investment advisor, invest and stay the course. Put it in there, let it go. Whether you do it on your own, you figure it out, you get an advisor, whatever it is. But you have to invest. And the earlier you start, I have twins that are going to be 20, and I have a 28-year-old, and I've pounded it in their heads, start early, because the magic of compound interest is insane. So the earlier you pay yourself first, make that commitment to paying yourself first, the better off you'll be in the long run.
Right. Yeah, that makes total sense. I agree. And that was going to be one of my questions, actually, is I like your story in terms of how you learned from your mother, and then now you're teaching your children. So what would you recommend that we do to better prepare the next generation so that they're not in the same place perhaps that we were, where we don't have that information or didn't have that information?
Yeah, I think a lot of parents, I mean, what is it? It's 2022, right? And my kids have friends, and some of their friends don't even know what their parents do for work, let alone, about knowing about a mortgage or, and my girls have uncovered when they've gotten to college that, especially my daughter who goes to school in California, and I don't know if it's a regional thing. Yeah, I've lived in New England my whole life. I've traveled a lot, but she's like, Mom, there's a lot of kids, a lot of girls that are clueless, like about their tuition, about money, about budgeting, like just clueless. And she's astounded, and she's doing a lot on her own. She took out loans. She's working. My belief system was that, you don't give your kids a complete free ride. But anyway, I think that it can start with parenting when kids are very small. My kids did book sales and lemonade stands, and they made their money, and we they shopped for houses with me. They know more about the home buying purchase process than any 20-year-olds probably have a right to know. But I just exposed my kids to everything financial, and I think that will pay off for them, I hope. Life happens. I didn't plan to get divorced. I didn't plan to have breast cancer. I didn't, there's so many interruptions. My mother has cancer now. I'm taking time out of work to help her. So we can't help that part of our life, but we can try to plan as best we can. And I think the other thing is, I know in our high schools, we don't have financial education. We don't have economic courses. And I talked to our local representative. He's a new representative. I know the family because he's from my town. And I said, can I work with you to put forth a bill in the Massachusetts to make financial literacy mandatory in our high schools? And I did some research, and there was a bill put forth. I need to circle back to that because that was last year. And he said, we'll do some more research. I'm totally on board with you if you want to do this. So, it was COVID. My kids were preparing for college. It was a lot of, and I was trying to get a business off the ground. But I do want to circle back to that because I would like it to be like on a federal level that every student before they graduate high school has to pass a basic financial literacy course, because 1 in 5 Americans cannot. And women actually fare even worse on retirement literacy, financial literacy. It's just something that we as a population in general, a female population in general, haven't paid attention to. And it's happening in 2022 with 20-year-old women. But I think there's a lot of millennial women. I see a lot of movement and a lot of conversation, young women talking about money. I have a Facebook group. It's called No More Have More. There's about 350 members. I hope it grows more. But there's women in there, young women, that are like, I need to know this. I'm reading these books. I'm in these groups. I'm looking at crypto. I'm investing. And so I think there's a groundswell. This is Financial Literacy Month, so it's good that we're talking right now. But there's so much more that can be done, and it can start early, very early.
And I love that concept, or that idea of how can we, with our own sphere of influence, help the next generations. And that idea of financial literacy taught at an earlier age is so important. And I can remember when I was growing up in high school, I think I was taught how to fill out a check.
Yeah.
The old-fashioned, like, write a check. But
Yes.
that was about the extent of it, and so everything else I had to learn on my own. So
yeah, we also have a spend culture. There's so many forces that are just, like Amazon, right? I was on Amazon last night and I spent more than I planned, but I was like, you know what? I got a new house. I need to have my must-haves, or my what are they called? When you have your things you're not willing to give up. I think in this process, it's not about taking things away. You know, some people think, oh, budgeting. So I have a spending tracking tool in the software because it's about spending. It's not meant to punish people and, you know, take things away. I think you need to live, and you need to decide what are those things you aren't willing to live without. You know, I spend money on fitness. I have more sneakers than somebody needs to have, but it helps me with my fitness goals, and fitness and health is huge. You know, we didn't talk about that, but it's, if you're not healthy in retirement, or you're not healthy in life, what's the point? And so healthcare is one of the major expenses for women in retirement, perhaps the biggest expense. So you better focus on your health, eat right, exercise. I mean, it sounds really like, oh God, yeah, another person saying eat right, exercise, but it's true. Like, we as Americans, we're just unhealthy, and it's costing us a lot of money. And so that's one way women can have more is to, you know, you got your genetics. There's nothing you can do about that, but control what you can control, eat right, exercise, and, you know, be financially responsible without punishing yourself. So I always say, you know, determine what those things are that you're not willing to negotiate. You know, for some people it's, oh, I love to cook, and that makes me happy, and I want to spend money on good quality ingredients, and whatever it is, you know, pick a few things that are your must-haves, and then, you know, build your financial plan around that. But yeah, I think I'm a big proponent, as you can tell, for financial literacy. I have, well, you can't see them, but I have so many books. And when my daughter went off to college, one of them, she said, Mom, this is what I want you to do. When I'm gone, I want you to go to the bookstore, and I want you to get fun books to read. You need to stop reading money books and retirement books. She actually gave me a book to read, and I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to.
Yeah, to have a, like you said, a balanced life. So yeah,
it's a beach read, you know. But yeah, balance is everything. Balance is everything in life, for sure.
Right, absolutely. And I like your point, but health means a lot of things. It can mean financially healthy, it can mean physically healthy, it can be mentally, emotionally healthy. So all of those components together are important.
Yeah, I mean, money causes a lot of stress. So you are going to kind of kill two birds with one stone when you get, you know, financially well. Your mind should follow. I know that when it's deposit day into the bank from the account that gets the money in, and then it goes, it's Thursdays, and Thursdays I'm always in a good mood because I see the fruit of labor, and it's just a comfortable feeling. I lived, you know, good part of my life where things were very tight, and it did cause some level of stress at various times in my life. And I don't like to feel stressed. I'm like a, you know, your life is better because of the quality of your thoughts and your actions. And so I like to live by that motto as much as possible, but it's all about having a plan. And people joke with me that my whole life, because I've had lists and plans, but nothing happens without a plan. So I encourage women to prepare and plan. And that's part of our coaching process, is making sure you have a plan, because you can't do this by the seat of your pants. You can't bury your head in the sand. That won't work either.
Right.
You can't rely on your kids.
Yeah, absolutely. So is there one tip we could leave people listening to this today, or whenever they're listening to it? Is there one tip that you could give folks to take action towards their financial health that they could implement right away?
Yeah, I'm going to actually make it two-pronged. One is if you have a 401k at your work, or you can open a SEP IRA, some type of retirement savings plan. I mean, this might be too basic of a tip, so that's what I'm going to give to, but make sure you're paying yourself first. I think Fidelity says, 15%. I've told my kids when they're starting out their lives post college, just pretend that you make 15% less than you do, and just live that way consistently. It's just off, it's just off the table. I've never thought of my 401k as something that I could use to fund college or, for any other purpose than what it's designed for. So, but I also think, because that is a tax deferred investment, I'm very much into tax planning, because tax planning is a way to make what you have so much more efficient. And a lot of people just don't know about tax planning. So in addition to those tax deferred accounts like a 401k or a SEP IRA, if you're in business for yourself, you need to have things in your other tax buckets. So for instance, setting up a Roth IRA and maxing that out. The max for under 50 is $6,000 a year. You want to max that out. And then if you're over 50, you can contribute another $1,000. So a couple of weeks ago, I contributed $7,000 to my Roth, and you want to do that consistently every year. There are some income limits for that. Also, there's something called an HSA, health savings account. So if you have access to that, I'm actually trying, that's big on my to-do list for this year, because being self-employed, you can get them. You have to have a high deductible health plan. Finding a health plan has been a whole nother, it's crazy, the health insurance system. But anyway, health savings account allows you to put together an account, put money into an account, and it's triple taxed free. So it goes in tax free, it comes out tax free. You don't have to claim it toward your income in retirement for tax purposes. So it's just an amazing, amazing tool. And because healthcare expenses are so much for women, over $130,000 in out-of-pocket healthcare costs over a course of, let's say, a 20-year retirement, it's
Wow.
not a small number.
Yeah.
So a health savings account can really help. And those are just two very tactical things. On a macro level, my tagline is, my favorite expression. Actually, you can't see my shirt, but it says, if I can turn my screen down here, it says "Get her done." My motto at Her Retirement is "Get her done." So many people talk about doing things. My mother used to say there's three types of people. There's people that watch things happen. There's people that think about how things are going to happen, and then there's people that actually make things happen. So I'm all about making that commitment and getting her done, because you can be the her and hero. But again, like nutrition, like fitness, it takes commitment and it takes discipline, but you can get her done. So just make that commitment to getting educated, so that you're never sold anything. You make informed decisions, and you can have more informed conversations with those professional advisors when you meet with them.
Great. That's great advice. Thank you so much for sharing that. You have a free gift that you are offering to the audience. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I call it the Her Retirement Readiness Kit, and it's all online. So you go in there, and there's basically, the kit takes you through 5 steps of readiness. And one of the steps gives you access to the software, the Retirement Readiness platform. It's very easy to use. It's a huge software program. We don't even have time to go into all of it, but there are e-classes on there, in addition to that inventory, the financial inventory that I talked about. And what's interesting about the software is, after you enter your inventory, it will come back and tell you where some possible gaps are in what you have. And it will give you probably a 25 to 35 page report on your gaps, risks, and opportunities to build your wealth. And so there's some artificial intelligence built in that software, and then you can take that to an advisor. You could use it in a coaching process with us. But if you go through the 5 steps of readiness, you'll be that much closer to knowing more and having more in retirement. So go through those 5 steps. I've outlined them. There's a lot of, you can do the 5 steps in the software, or I have actual PDFs where you can download. Because if you want to go the old school route, like I still have a notebook, even though I have an iPad with the note, I still write. So if you wanted to go the old school route and not use the software, there's PDFs for each of the 5 steps. But I think that's a good place for people to start and to say, okay, let me get this going here. Let's start the process of getting her done. So
great. Yeah, that sounds like a wonderful gift. So yes, please make sure you grab that. So we'll put the link to that below the video, as well as additional contact information for Lynn. And thanks again, Lynn. This has been super helpful. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your advice and your story with us.
thank you. Thanks for having me, Linda.
Absolutely. And make sure you tune back in for our other speakers in the Own It Summit. If you'd like continued unlimited access to Lynn's video, as well as other speaker videos, sign up for the VIP All Access Pass. I'll have the link below as well. So thanks again, Lynn.
Thank you.